The AllStar app, the #1 app in the business. UFC, Bellator, One Championship, PFL, and more. Get the app right now. Link in description. Before we get into your fight, I wanted to talk to you about volunteer firefighting. You know, in a sport like this, MMA, it's really selfish sport, but you're doing something that's a complete selfish act, and the danger factor is very high when you're out there fighting fires. What draws you to that job?
Had the opportunity to go be a volunteer firefighter, but a resident firefighter. So that means I could live at the station and I didn't have to pay for, housing. I didn't have to pay for laundry, anything. All I had to pay for was food and gas in my car. And so doing that actually gave me the opportunity to train full time. And so as much as it's selfish, selfless it seems, it was also like, it worked great for me because I got to go out and learn all these cool skills, help people and stuff like that. But it also gave me the opportunity to be a full-time fighter.
What kind of skills, man, that you obtained through that job?
So I got my EMT through it. So it taught me like everything I needed to know medically. So if someone's dying or someone's really hurt, I know, all that stuff I need to do. So if I need to, I can beat you up and then I can put you back together, I guess.
Yeah. Have you ever had to use that in the gym? Like if somebody had some problems?
Yeah, actually, because, I've done jiu-jitsu since I was 14. So I've been in a jiu-jitsu school, and then I started switching to MMA. But yeah, there was this one time when I think I was like 20, this girl, she was a small girl, she was doing jiu-jitsu and she was rolling with this guy and we all heard a big snap and we look over and her arms like snapped in half. It wasn't like too serious, but like, being an EMT, I just knew like, splint the arm, control it and then get her to the hospital, which wasn't anything too crazy. But no, I haven't like dealt with any outside of like actually being on a call. I haven't dealt with anything other than that, luckily. But that was a pretty cool one.
Yeah, that's pretty wild, man. A girl's arm is snapped in half. Like, is it snapped on the forearm or the?
Yeah, the forearm. Yeah, like broke right on the forearm and it was like flopping. And we are like, go get some cardboard and tape it up and, secure it to her body. And then we took her to the hospital.
Now let's talk about the fight, man. UFC debut November 19th against Fernie Garcia. He has a win on the Contender Series, one fight in the octagon. What have you seen in him and his skill set?
I think his skill set's pretty straightforward. He's got good wrestling, and he's a great boxer. Right? He has good hands. He stands really sideways like a boxer should. He's got good combinations. Throws a really good left hook. And I saw on his record he has a lot of submissions. So I assume he knows how to grapple. But yeah, that's pretty much what I got out of him. And from what I've seen, he likes to throw hands. Not so much of the wrestler, but he has good anti-wrestling.
When you study an opponent, how far back do you go and watch film on them?
I like to look. I looked back at a few of his LFA fights. Obviously, I'm not going to go back 10 years because he's a completely different fighter now. But definitely like his last 3, 4, 5 fights, just to see like tendencies, especially if, you see him in the grappling exchanges and you didn't see that in any of his UFC fights, obviously, because he got the TKO on Contender Series and Jeremy Newson took him down and kind of just beat him up on the feet. So it was kind of good to go back and watch some of his grappling exchanges. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just kind of seeing what he likes to do. And at the end of the day, it's a fight. So you just go out there and fight.
Do you see like major differences in him, like a huge evolution, or is it just like he's pretty much the same fighter he was maybe 5 fights ago?
Yeah, I don't see a lot of change. He's kind of older too. What is he, like 31, 32? So
Yeah, 30,
he's kind of set in his ways by now. And, he's even said it himself before he even got a Contender Series. He's like, this is my final shot. So like now he got in the UFC, lost a fight. What is his mindset going into this fight? It's not like, I don't think he's like, he has championship aspirations like I do. Like I want to be the world champ. I want to be the best ever. And so I just don't think he has that mindset. So I'm not sure if he's going to go reinvent himself to come out in this fight or if he's going to come and collect his final paycheck. It's kind of up to him.
That's an interesting topic right there of like guys that are fighting to become the world champ, to become the best in the world, and then there's guys that are just chasing a paycheck. They just want to get paid. This is kind of like just their regular job in a way, right?
Yeah.
What separates people? What do you think separates these types of fighters?
I think like what puts someone in that mindset, I think for him, the biggest thing is he's a little bit older. He's not the youngest guy. He's not even, even close to the youngest guy. He's kind of at the trail end of his career, especially for 35ers. We like a lot of 35ers start losing their speed at like 35, so he's getting close to that. He's lost a fight in the UFC. But yeah, I think what separates is just the mindset and the people you have around you, I guess. You know, I can't really say just because I come from a gym that everyone wants to be the best. You know, we're not just in here to be mediocre, collect paychecks. We're trying to go out there and be the best in the world, which I'm blessed for.
For sure. Let's talk about the ACL injury that you sustained during the show. I saw that you were grappling Colby Thickness, a guy that's probably going to be in the UFC eventually, you know, one of Volk's guys. You know, what was it like hiding the injury from everyone throughout the whole season?
You know, it was kind of funny because I told Volk, Craig Jones, like the team, because I knew they weren't going to say anything. But so they were like, then they had like the camera crew come over and they were like, so I heard something's wrong with your leg. Can you tell us to the camera? And I'm like, oh no, my leg's fine. They're like, oh, okay. Are you sure there's nothing wrong? I'm like, yeah, nothing wrong. Because I was like, before I was on the show, I was looking at a bunch of old seasoned Ultimate Fighter, and my teammate Juliana Pena, I was watching her season, and there was a guy that tore his hamstring, and he got in the house and they checked it out and they actually kicked him out of the house. They're like, oh dude, your hamstring's torn, you're not allowed to compete anymore. And so that like scared me. So I was like, I'm not telling any production, I'm not going to tell anyone that can look at my leg. And so I was just hiding it. Luckily Craig Jones got me a knee brace, and yeah, it would slip in practice and I wouldn't say anything. I would just go sit on the side of the mat for a few rounds and I would just deal with it. But luckily I had good coaches and good teammates and they helped me through.
Did anybody say like, hey, what's this knee brace for? Or they caught a glimpse of it? Did no one ever like pointed that out?
They did, but then I was like, yeah, my knee's just a little bit sore. Craig just got this for me. Just downplayed it.
Craig, he's an interesting character, man, that guy.
Oh yeah, those Australians are funny. So they know how to make it go under the radar, and they made a joke out of it too.
For sure. Man, you fought twice on the show, basically on one leg. You know, did it mess with you mentally throughout that time?
You know, I feel like on the show I was so mentally, I was locked in. I was mentally ready to go and die in that cage. Especially because I was so isolated. I didn't have my family, friends, nothing. I would just write in my journal, and I was so laser focused that nothing was going to stop me. Not a torn ACL, not even if I lost a hand, a foot, whatever. I was going to go out there and win. How
important is writing in a journal? I've talked to so many fighters lately. They're talking about they journal everything. They got everything scheduled. They got everything recorded. Like, how important is that for like a championship mindset?
I think it keeps you on your path. I feel like your brain can wander and stuff. Like I do a lot of visual stuff. Like I have vision boards and I write a lot of stuff on, whiteboards in my room and stuff like that. And then journal. I think it just keeps the goal in the front of your brain and kind of keeps you on a straight path to victory and to where you want to go.
For sure. And then, the path led you to the Ultimate Fighter finale, the biggest fight of your career, man. You were on one leg as well on that one, and it was still a very close fight. When you like dissect it, right, that fight, like if you weren't injured, like how do you feel like you would have performed?
I don't want to take any credit away from Ricky or say anything, like I should have won the fight. I still could have won the fight. I still have the mindset that with my one leg, I should have still won the fight. But looking back on it, if I had both legs, I think my striking would have been way more dynamic. I would have been able to move better. I wouldn't have to force the grappling. Because like I said, I've been grappling for so long. I know how to use my body, especially if I'm injured. I know I can kind of put more weight here and stuff. In the striking, I was less confident because there's so many explosive movements, and I was afraid to push off my back leg. So I didn't have a lot of power in my right hand. I couldn't throw any kicks, stuff like that. So I think I would just been way more dynamic on my feet, and my wrestling would have been way more powerful. But, kudos to Ricky. He fought a great fight.
How was the surgery and the recovery for you?
Yeah, that was the toughest thing because I've never dealt with an injury before. I've never broke a bone. The worst I've had is like minor sprains. So going into this, having an actual surgery was crazy, especially on the ACL because it's like a 9-month recovery. So being out for that long, I've never taken more than 2 weeks off since I was 14, and to have to take 2 months off of training anything was hard. But it was like the Ultimate Fighter house. You have something taken away, one, it makes you more grateful for it. You know, it made me more grateful to train, more grateful for the opportunities I've had, you know, more grateful just like to be healthy. But it also gave me time to like kind of figure out my goals, and it gave me the opportunity to buy a house. So I got a house now.
Wow.
Yeah, and some other things in my life that got to come out of it. But yeah, it kind of sucked at first, not gonna lie.
Was it scary going into the knife for the first time?
Yeah, it was pretty intimidating, especially because I felt like I fought 3 times with no ACL, so I was like, I feel like I could just rehab it and just get everything strong and keep continuing. But they're like, dude, you're 22, just go get your knee fixed. You'll be fine in a year, and you'll be back to fighting at 23, and you'll be ready to go into the UFC and everything like that. I'm like, okay, but I was like worried that they were gonna mess me up, or I was gonna die or something under the knife, but I felt okay. My mom talked to me through it. She's in the medical field, so she's like, Brady, don't be a pussy. Just go in and get it done. And I'm like, okay, Mom.
The best advice comes from moms, man. Don't be a pussy.
Dude, I know, man. My mom's in the ER, obviously, so she sees the worst of the worst. So when something happens to us, and she's like, dude, just quit being a bitch. Just go and get it fixed, or quit crying about it. It's not that big of a deal. I see worse stuff every day.
For sure. Any setbacks during the rehab?
No, I think it went smoothly. They were actually pretty impressed. I was, they usually say it's like a 9-month recovery, and I was back to training at really, really light at like 5 months, and back to full training almost at 7 months. So I felt like I was way ahead of schedule. I did everything I needed to, going from training every day. I just switched all that focus to recovering every day. And so I made sure I did everything the right way. I still ate good, so I think that helped a lot, and I did all my exercises.
What was the conversation like with the UFC during that time? Were they telling you like, get the surgery, recover, and we're gonna book you, or was it kind of like up in the air?
No, they were cool about it. They were really cool about it. It's funny because there's a lot of different sectors to the UFC. So I was talking to a lot of the medical side, and then we were figuring it out. And in that time, they actually offered me another fight. I'm not gonna say who against, but they offered me another fight, and I'm like, yeah, Sean Shelby messaged me. He's like, I got a fight for you. I'm like, bro, I'm actually going to get ACL surgery next week. And he's like, oh, okay. But yeah, no, they're really cool. They the team over there, they hooked me up with a Game Ready, so they got me a sponsor with Game Ready. They sent me, it's like a $2,000 equipment. Helped so much through my recovery because it helped with the pain and swelling and stuff like that. And they covered everything, which is crazy for how much the surgery is. It's an expensive surgery, but they were great, honestly.
Now, when you get back into training, like what were the steps, before you actually was like full blast?
So it started with just super light rolling in the gym, light mitts with not a lot of movement. And then actually it's funny because once I started training a little bit more and more, it was the next season of The Ultimate Fighter. And so I actually went and helped out with Juliana Pena's season. So I was on her coaching staff. And so it was actually perfect because my legs started getting better. And that was like around the 6, 7, 8 month mark. And so I started training with all these, 125-pound girls, and they're not super big, and they're not going to, kick me really hard, or they're not going to, they're not super heavy. So they were like perfect training partners. So I would just go in and train with the girls, and they were like lighter, and they weren't going to hurt me. And so I started building up with them. And then I finally got back into training with my guys that, are a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more explosive.
How was it like being on the other side of the glass, so to say, on The Ultimate Fighter, man? You went from being a cast member to a coach.
It was cool actually, because it was like all the benefits of being on the show, besides actually fighting and competing and stuff, without all the setbacks of like, oh, you can't talk to your family, oh, you can't leave the house whenever you want to. It was like you get to have all the benefits of being on The Ultimate Fighter without all the takebacks of having to be a competitor. So it was pretty cool.
And you could probably give advice to them, right? Like, because you experienced that just, it's fresh as well in your mind. Like, you just went through the season, right? So they must have took advantage of that. And for this training camp, for your UFC debut, anything that you've added on, you know what I mean? A lot of people, once they get to that level, they start to add on things, not change, but add on. Have you added on anything?
Yeah, definitely. So I started working with a strength conditioning coach. He works with me, my buddy Ashton, Mike Chiesa, a lot of guys here in Spokane, Terrence McKinney, Saeed. And so he's become like one of my best friends. But yeah, I've been training with him 3 days a week, and it's changed my game so much. I never really lifted weights in like a organized way. I would literally just go and do a bunch of pull-ups, push-ups, sit-ups, and go for runs. And so now that like I'm actually like doing the right stuff, I got a program set out, I'm working on wind bikes and stuff. I feel like it's just made me into even a bigger athlete. Like I'm just more of a like honed in athlete rather than just a scrappy fighter.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize how important like a certain type of strength and conditioning program you need to be a fighter. You know, a lot of people just say, "Oh, I'm gonna just go do CrossFit," and really, CrossFit doesn't really help you at all for fighting, right?
No, well, I mean, it like you got to know what to do for certain parts of your body. You know, you don't want to kill yourself like CrossFit. People go and that's all they do. So you're gonna go and do CrossFit, which kills you, and then you're gonna go try and train. It's dumb. You got to make sure you have, you know, a good program and someone that's watching you and not trying to just push you to your limits every day.
Man, how do you expect to get your victory, you know, in your UFC debut?
You know, I want to go out there and get a finish. That's my goal, and that's what I envision myself getting, whether it be on the feet or any on the ground with, you know, a submission. But he's never been finished, and, you know, I want to set it, you know, I want to make a statement coming back for my, you know, for my finale fight, that I'm here to make a statement in this division and climb my way up to the title. So going out there and finishing an unfinished guy, I think is a pretty good start.
For sure. And, you know, with your connections to Volkanovski, do you feel like, man, I'm going to try to hop on that UFC 284 card? Because it's like one of the biggest fights to ever put together, Volkanovski versus Islam. Come on, man. It's crazy, right?
Dude, I know. That's actually a really good point. That would be so freaking cool. Isn't it over in Australia too?
Yeah, in Perth, yeah.
Dude, that would be amazing. Yeah, you know, after I get on, you might have just sparked a great idea. Maybe I'll, after I win this fight, I'll hop on the mic and say, "Hey, get me on this card, Dana."
Call somebody out. You never know. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly. Maybe I'll try to see who's available. That'd be good.
For sure, man. Well, before anything like that happens, man, November 19th, UFC fight in Las Vegas. If you want to know more about the event, go to the descriptions and download the AllStar app. Brady, appreciate the time, and good luck in the fight, and good luck getting on that, you know, Perth card, because it's going to be historic.
Oh, for sure. Historic, for sure. Thank you so much for your time, brother. I appreciate it.